All right, welcome back to Veritas Live, everyone. I'm Demetrius Malbro and super excited to be back with you, especially during this new year. In this episode of Veritas Live, we are going to explore migration best practices to ensure that you have solid data protection and resilience solutions for your cloud workloads. And also to help field all of the questions, we have our community manager, Ben Spickert. He's going to be virtually engaging with you during this conversation. And also, don't be shy. Put your questions in the chat window because we'd love to answer all of your questions. And so I also love to see where everyone is watching from. So please type in that chat window where you are watching from. Now, I'd like to introduce our guests. We have Joe D'Angelo, who is the Director of Product Management right here at Veritas. And we also have the very own Miles Scott, Senior Partner Solutions Architect at AWS. Welcome to Veritas Live, gentlemen.
Hey, Demetrius. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, let's start with a softball question here. How many gigabytes do you think you have in the cloud, Miles? And also, how long have you been backing up your photos to the cloud as well?
That's a good question. So I think I probably have in the order of 3 to 4 terabytes between video and photos in the cloud. And I've been using some sort of cloud retention or cloud repository for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years at this point. So kind of an old hat at that. That was definitely one of the first things I did to kind of integrate with the cloud, in personal life at least.
Okay, nice. So you've never ran out of space before, basically. You have 3+ terabytes.
No, yeah, I mean, I have an on-prem NAS as well, but just kind of in the house. But I definitely leverage the cloud for the scalability that it brings.
Okay, I'm sure Joe can top that. Joe might have at least
Well,
5.
I can definitely tell you it's more than 100 gig because I got that notification from Google saying that you now have to pay for the storage. So it's at least 100 gig, but gigabytes, I'm like, how many zeros is that one again? Is that like 9 zeros on that one? But I probably have anywhere between 500 gig to at least a terabyte on a variety of cloud repositories. But I can say that I've actually had content in the cloud probably going back, oh God, I'm making myself feel old right now, probably 26 years now. Going back to like those original really, really bad HTML only web pages back in the late 90s that everyone started off with. Those are archived somewhere, but yeah, so it's about 26 years worth of stuff that's been stored, and pictures probably about, I would say maybe 10 or 12 years back when I've got my first Android phone.
So what if I told you I had like 15 hard disk drives stashed around the house?
I've got those too. Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, me and the cloud, we're not working when it comes to photos, and I don't know. Maybe I don't trust it yet, but we'll find out later. All right, so let's talk about some of the key challenges organizations face when transitioning from, let's say, legacy enterprise software to cloud-based tools. And Miles, why don't you start us off with that?
Yeah. So, I think a lot of what we see is, like a lack of understanding, right? We see, customers, have been out there using on-prem solutions for decades, right? Knowing what's available, and kind of what, how they can run applications and how they can run systems in the cloud. That's very important, and that definitely comes with training. That's kind of the first step, in my opinion, is definitely make sure you guys are checking out. We have some free training out there, from Amazon. There's definitely paid training opportunities as well. But really having that kind of foundational knowledge about what's out there, how to best secure, how to best protect all of the stuff that you do migrate. That's kind of one of the biggest challenges that I see, is just people not knowing where to go.
Okay, nice. And Joe, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to To echo Miles's statements there, I think a lot of it has to do with how aggressively customers want to move into the cloud, and that often gives them a little bit of apprehension about how do they take advantage of those capabilities. Typically, you've got workloads that have been on-prem for a decade or more, and they have an established operational paradigm. They have all sorts of different SLAs associated with it, and ensuring that there's parity there, both from an operational standpoint as well as from a performance and a resiliency. So I think that that really is what I would say is some of the headwinds that we see. But hopefully today we're going to learn about how we can address those and resolve those for our customers.
Okay, awesome. And you know what? This is the very first time I think I have seen someone from UAE, the United Arab Emirates,
Nice.
actually tune in to Veritas Live. So we thank you
Welcome.
for tuning in. And India is always in the house. And we also have Canada in DC. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And please don't be shy. Post your questions. We are here and ready. I'm sure Joe is ready to answer a question. Miles is also ready to answer a question as well. But let's talk about the shared responsibility model. And can you guys explain the shared responsibility model as it pertains to cloud services, and particularly the distinction between what is managed by the CSP or the cloud service provider, and also what's the customer's responsibility? And I'm sure Joe, you really want to jump in on that one first, but Miles
Well,
is gonna go for 5 minutes.
I'll let Miles give the AWS perspective, and then we
Okay,
can add in
okay.
our color.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so this is a great question. We definitely deal with this a lot in terms of what the customer responsibilities are versus what the cloud provider. At Amazon, we kind of say that it's our responsibility to secure and make sure that the cloud is resilient, right? This is the security and resiliency of the cloud. And really what that's talking about is, we're going to provide the hardware, the software, the networking, the core networking infrastructure, and even the physical, data centers, because all this stuff does run somewhere, right? So at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to make sure that that's all secure and resilient. Now, you as a customer, it's really your responsibility to make sure that anything you migrate or are running in the cloud is secure and resilient. So things like configuring firewall policies, configuring IAM roles to make sure that you have security in place for users. Things like backups. It can vary between services, but definitely making sure that you have some way to protect your data if it's lost or overwritten, destroyed, things like that. Those are definitely kind of most of the time those push to the customer side of the responsibility stack. So
Okay, that is fantastic. Joe, you passed the
Yeah, I
baton
mean
for
that
us.
is precisely how we envision the shared responsibility model as this sort of dynamic between the cloud service provider and with AWS, and how you as an end user tenant take advantage of those capabilities. But more specifically than that, there's sort of a handoff that occurs, right? Where within AWS you have to be responsible for the performance of your application, the resilience of your application, everything that's constituent inside of those workloads or inside of those instances. That is the responsibility of the end user, and that's where Veritas comes in to be able to drive home a lot of those capabilities. We as just consumers deal with shared responsibility models all the time. Maybe don't even think of it in those terms, but think about when
Mhm.
you buy a car, right? And you have to take care of that vehicle. You have to change the oil. You have to maintain it. You have to be able to treat it well. It's not the responsibility of the car manufacturer to change the oil for you or to bring it to the service shop. They may give you a service contract, but you have to bring it to the shop and actually do it. Same thing goes with hosting applications and services in the public cloud. You have to use the capabilities. You have to take advantage of the functional components that exist there, as well as work with partners like Veritas to help to achieve those highest levels of resilience and protection.
And you know what, Joe? I love that analogy because I'm trying to teach my daughter that she needs to get her oil changed. And
That light comes on, and don't just ignore it.
yeah, I'm
We
going to
need a
tell her
check.
about
You know what we need? We need a check engine light for the cloud. That's exactly what we need.
that.
We need
Ooh,
somebody who's running instance. That light comes on their dashboard and says, check your instances.
okay. And we also have a question, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Tuba, Tuba. What is the future of Morocco in cloud solutions? How much time will it take to digitize and also shifting to cloud solutions? Maybe that's for you, Miles, and I'm not sure you can go
yeah.
super specific on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't actually have I don't really have any data. I'm not super familiar with the Moroccan kind of transformation. I'm sure like every other country, there's obviously there's interest in some form, and we're working towards it in some way. So
Is
Yeah,
the question asking about, is there going to be a region developed inside of
it
Morocco? Is that what the
seems
question?
like I don't know if
Okay.
there's one today or not, but I know AWS is adding regions
Yeah.
often, right?
Well,
yeah.
I'll add this. The great thing about our technologies is that as AWS does add new regions, our technology is ubiquitous across those, right? So we are able to take advantage, or you're able as an end user take advantage of those capabilities as soon as they are represented in your geography.
All right. So hopefully we answered your question too, but if not, type back in the chat and maybe we can get back with you once we have an opportunity to kind of do some research there and we'll let you know. All right, so let's get into some best practices around secure workload migration. And I'm really curious to hear, especially from you, Miles, but maybe I'll get Joe to go first this time around, securely migrating workloads to the cloud
Mhm.
while also ensuring cyber resilience. That's that new
Yep.
buzzword for 2024 is cyber resilience.
Yep.
So
It
what do you
is,
have?
as I have stated many times before, it is the vanguard for the entirety of IT conversations as of late. It dominates the talk tracks, and it's one that pretty much resonates across all personas, all customer levels, all from leadership all the way down to individual admins. And when you think about moving to the cloud, the Veritas, we've had a number of technologies over the years that allow you to copy data, right? Move bits of data from one location to the other. But one of the things that we're most keen on, especially in the technology area that I focus on with InfoScale and Alta Enterprise Resiliency, it's about looking at how your business actually is composed, and how that data actually affects your business and your enterprise. So looking at the applications that consume that data, right, or the delivery vehicles for that data, how is it that you can successfully migrate those workloads across a myriad of different on-prem technologies, be it storage, platform, hypervisor, into AWS. And we've actually gone as far as to build out technologies that help to capture what that footprint looks like,
Mhm.
and then synthesize what a cloud twin would look like for you inside of AWS. Taking a lot of the guesswork out of that equation, taking out a lot of the more cumbersome or arduous tasks, and giving you the flexibility to choose, how you want that new environment to be built, so that when it begins when your cloud journey begins, once you have that workload running, it will be resilient, it will be secure. And what we're talking about here is moving application data and those constituent workloads. If you think about reducing the attack surface, right, for a
Mhm.
particular cyber threat, we're only talking about moving the application data. The more narrow and more concentrated you are, the less exposed you can be. So we tend to see that as more efficient, it's more granular, and certainly is one that we help to automate. So it's an exciting time, certainly, to take advantage of these tools.
And you said digital twin or cyber twin? You
Yeah,
said,
so we use that expression, synthesizing your cloud twin. Effectively, what that allows you to do is take what your on-prem layout would be it from a cluster perspective, storage perspective, application interdependencies, and we actually can take and reproduce that in the cloud for you, generating those environments, building them out from scratch as they would be resilient and adhering to those SLAs that your customers require.
okay, makes sense now, makes sense. And Miles, anything from you, maybe around AMS or Snowball or some other exciting feature that you guys have?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously at Amazon we have we have a lot of migration strategies and technologies that can help customers with it. I kind of want to take a step back though and kind of kind of dovetail off what Joe was saying, and it's really
Yeah.
about reducing like what you're working with. And one of the biggest things for me, I came from an infrastructure team, right? think, when you start your migration journey, make sure you have a plan. And part of that plan should be identifying applications and workloads that no longer need to be running, right? So, the easiest way to migrate something, and frankly, in my opinion, the most fun way is to turn it off, to decommission it, right? Getting rid of those workloads not only saves you money, but like Joe said, it definitely helps shrink kind of that surface area, that attack vector, out there in the cloud. So definitely having that. And then the other thing I'll touch on is, and obviously people on this call are obviously aware of it, but don't try to do this alone, right? Amazon has partners out there specifically for this. We have thousands of partners in the Amazon Partner Network, from solution providers like Veritas to our system integrator partners that can help actually come up with that plan and help you migrate. But definitely don't try to do this alone. Like, unless you have very, very pointed use case and very small workloads that you're trying to migrate. Once you start talking about entire data centers or infrastructure sets, definitely look to our partners for help with this thing. So.
Okay, and looks like we have another question that came in from the chat, from Mansi. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it states, I'm currently pursuing a master's in cybersecurity right now, and I believe that cloud security and also cybersecurity together is a good combination to learn and excel in the future, which you are right about that. But I don't know how to start. So any recommendations or any advice around where to start to learn cloud in general?
Yeah, I mean, I can throw out one. So I mentioned earlier that we have some free courses out there. Definitely check out its Skill Builder. We also have, if you look up, if you just search for, Amazon AWS workshops. If you have an AWS account, there is a free tier for most of this stuff, so you can run it for free to kind of test or evaluate. But there are workshops out there that can bring you through kind of learning, at a high level about, the AWS security solutions. Unfortunately, it is going to be kind of specific to the AWS ones. If you want to really learn about the partner ones, you'll definitely want to get with our partners, to learn a little bit more about those. A lot of companies and a lot of solutions have certification programs that are obviously great, especially if you're starting off in your career. Getting some of those entry level, even intermediate level certifications are great places to start.
Okay, and Joe, what about from your perspective? Because I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about learning cloud.
Yeah, I think that there is just a myriad of different online resources from every possible corner of the internet that you can take advantage of. All right, I myself constantly are finding new videos that get posted on YouTube that really go into incredible detail with some very, very sophisticated topics, but done in an incredibly well, very polished. The presenters are excellent. I think that there's also incredible communities out there, the cloud native community, that the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and that really embrace a cross section of all different types of end users, introductory users, brand new to the industry, students, master level, and as well as long time, admins that are contributing, and expert level contributors. So don't be discouraged by having very little experience. We all had no experience when we started, right? So that is the actually, it's a great place to be, because you can only go up, right? You can only learn at that point. So I would take advantage of those, and certainly think about the footprint that you create in the cloud. Think about what you do every day, in terms of content you create, services that you use, and think of ways that, like, hey, how could that be better, right? How could that improve? And use that as sort of the motivator to think about where you want to get into. Is it a usability question? Is it an availability question? Is it a resiliency question? Whichever that may be. And definitely, go go from the heart, so to speak.
Yeah, and it seems like you're already on the right track because you are already pursuing your master's in cybersecurity. So that's a great next step. And there's also online classes like Udemy. There's a ton out there. So it's just making a commitment to put the time and the work in and block out your time and
Yeah.
decide, hey, here's what I'm going to study. And then maybe you can even look at certifications as well. So AWS has tons
Mhm.
of certifications. And so those are great routes that you can go to further solidify improve that, you have at least the knowledge, and then you'll have to also do some maybe testing in a lab environment in order to get that hands-on experience as well. But great question, though.
Yeah. I would add one other point too, is that start small. Don't try to take on the entirety of a massive topic like cybersecurity. Think, like I said, think of something in there that is pertinent to you, relevant to you, you're passionate about, and focus on that, and then expand outward. Sometimes these things can be a little overwhelming, can be a little daunting, like taking on learning all about the cloud. It's, take, one step at a time.
All right. I hope that was helpful for you, Mansi. Please type in the chat, give us a thumbs up, let us know how well we did on that particular one. Any other questions, please type them in the chat right now as well. We may have time for one more, but until then, I'll go ahead and ask another question, especially to you, Joe. What strategies have you seen that organizations should implement to ensure solid data protection and also resilience for their cloud workloads?
Great question. I would say that first and foremost is know your application, and by that I mean understand how your application is interdependent across different technologies. I often have conversations with customers who do want to take on a cloud journey, who do want to take on an endeavor to move workloads into the cloud, but they don't necessarily understand the relationships between them. They don't understand the effect the outage of one application or loss of data of one application might have both upstream and downstream. So definitely take some time to kind of get to know your app, I guess you could say. Secondly, would be to the earlier you start in terms of making a resilient deployment, the better off you will be. Trying to retrofit something later on is always more difficult. It's always
Yeah.
more challenging, and it's always more complicated. So think about what the sort of bottom up approach to resiliency is all about. That means the infrastructure, right? And if you're moving to the cloud with the shared responsibility model, you're going to defer that to the team at AWS. But then as you think about those workloads as they are going to be resident in the cloud, what can you take advantage of to ensure that level of resilience? Using multiple availability zones. How do I take advantage of that in a transparent fashion? How do I then take advantage of being able to move workloads amongst different regions within the particular location in AWS? Those also are going to be very important. How do I ensure that I have that degree of autonomy and where those different workloads are? And how do I complement that with what I would consider to be an appropriate data protection strategy? Meaning, is this workload a tier 0 workload, a tier 1 workload, tier 3, or tier 2 or tier 3? There's no one size fits all approach, right? We get that. You're not going to find a technology that's going to just raise its hand and say, yep, I can take care of all your resiliency, all of your data protection, all of your migration capabilities in one tool. That's not true. What is true, however, is working with an integrated sort of architecture that can apply the right sized approach so that you have a tier 0 application, you can apply a tier 0 policy. If you have a tier 3 application, you can apply a tier 3 type policy, and it doesn't encumber you too much operationally. So that to me is where I see the best time spent in terms of architecting that for the cloud.
Okay, very thorough. All right, I appreciate that. And did you have anything to add to that, Miles, or you're good?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just kind of throw out something quick. I think Joe gave a great kind of explanation. If you have specific questions about kind of like guidance on any of those areas, one of the best places to go, obviously, for workloads that you're looking at migrating to AWS is our well-architected framework, right? This is kind of our best practices in terms of how to not only migrate but how to run applications in the cloud. It covers things like performance and cost optimization, even things like sustainability was a new pillar that was added here recently. So if you guys are looking for kind of specific guidance on what to be thinking about, how to look at your applications, that's a great place to start. And definitely if you have an AWS account team, they're more than happy to kind of walk through that with you. And it's free, it's online, there's nothing hidden. There's a white paper on it, and you can find it directly in the AWS console under the well-architected tool.
And Miles, that sounded very much like closing remarks from you. Anything else that you missed that you want to mention here?
No, this was great, Demetrius. Thanks for having me. Same with you, Joe. Nothing
Oh,
else from my end.
always a pleasure, Miles.
And Joe, did you want to add something, or you're good?
I'm just thrilled by the questions that we heard, and excited about the partnership that we have with AWS, and just that for the folks listening, know that when it comes to resiliency and data protection for those mission critical applications, we really do have you covered.
All right, everyone. And also, Mansi as well, and everyone else out there, we have a white paper on accelerating secure cloud mobility right on veritas.com. And that white paper will give you information around how to manage and strategically plan for moving data and apps between clouds. So that'll be a great read as well, everyone. So I had fun and really appreciated leading and hosting this particular Veritas Live. So until next time, everyone, stay secure and back up often.